Did you know that by the time you finish watching this video, about 30 people here in the United States will have suffered a stroke? That's one person every 40 seconds. And for adults over 60, the risk is even greater. It was a quiet Tuesday morning in Ohio when 72-year-old Harold sat down at his kitchen table with a glass of water and his familiar pill organizer. Like millions of seniors across the country, he had made this ritual part of his daily life. One pill for blood pressure, one for sleep, another for joint pain. He popped them into his mouth, washed them down, and turned on the morning news. But within half an hour, Harold felt something wasn't right. His vision blurred. His right hand trembled as he tried to hold his coffee cup, and his wife noticed his speech was slurred. She thought it was just age catching up to him. In truth, Harold was in the early stages of a stroke. Here's the shocking part. The trigger wasn't his age, his genes, or even his diet. It was the very pills he trusted to keep him healthy. Few people realize that some of the most common medications prescribed to seniors can silently double the risk of stroke. Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Reynolds, and for over 30 years I've helped seniors navigate the challenges of medication safety, heart health, and stroke prevention. I've seen far too many patients, people just like Harold, whose lives were turned upside down, not because of their illness, but because of the hidden side effects of the drugs they were taking every single day. This video is not meant to scare you away from necessary treatments. Medications are powerful tools for managing pain, lowering blood pressure, or helping with sleep. But like every tool, they come with risks. And when it comes to your brain and circulation, those risks are often overlooked. That's why today we're going to uncover 9 common medications that may double stroke risk in seniors. These are drugs you or someone you love might already be taking, prescribed by trusted doctors, picked up at the pharmacy, and swallowed without question. And yet, behind the promise of relief, they may be increasing the very danger you want to avoid. By the end of this video, you'll not only know which medications deserve a second look, you'll also learn safer approaches and alternative strategies you can discuss with your doctor to protect your brain and extend your independence. Please understand this. Millions of older adults in America are swallowing these pills every day, completely unaware of the hidden threat they carry. Don't let yourself or your loved ones stay in the dark. And I'll tell you right now, the last medication on this list is the most surprising of all, and one that almost no senior ever questions. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Type 1 in the comments if you or someone you care about takes daily medication, and type Z if you'd like to know safer, smarter alternatives. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more practical, life-saving health tips. Because sometimes the difference between a healthy tomorrow and a devastating stroke comes down to knowing the truth about what's really inside that pill bottle. For millions of seniors in the United States, joint pain and stiffness are a daily struggle. Take Mary, a 68-year-old grandmother from Texas. Each morning she wakes up with sore knees that make walking to the kitchen difficult. Like so many others, she reaches for a familiar orange bottle, ibuprofen, Advil, or naproxen, Aleve, small pills that promise quick relief. Within an hour, the pain eases, and Mary feels she can carry on with her day. But what Mary doesn't realize is that these very pills, taken almost every day for years, may be quietly raising her risk of stroke. Why NSAIDs increase stroke risk. NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, are some of the most commonly used medications in America. They work by reducing inflammation and blocking pain, which sounds harmless. But here's the problem. NSAIDs also cause the body to retain sodium and water, raise blood pressure, and increase the tendency of blood to clot. For seniors, especially those already living with hypertension, diabetes, or heart disease, this combination can be dangerous. Thickened blood and higher pressure inside fragile arteries create the perfect storm for a stroke, particularly at night when the body is least prepared. Scientific evidence. A large study published in the British Medical Journal found that seniors who regularly used NSAIDs had a 19 to 58% higher risk of stroke, depending on the dose and specific drug. Research from the American Heart Association reported that long-term NSAID use doubles the risk of both ischemic clot-related and hemorrhagic bleeding strokes in older adults. Even short-term use at high doses can spike blood pressure within just 2 weeks. Other concerns for seniors: NSAIDs can irritate the stomach lining, leading to ulcers and bleeding. They may reduce kidney function, which is already weaker in many seniors. When combined with blood pressure medications, NSAIDs can make those drugs less effective. Practical alternatives. The good news is that there are safer ways to manage chronic pain. Acetaminophen, Tylenol. Safer for the heart and brain. Though seniors must still avoid overdose. Limit to less than or equal to 3,000 milligrams per day. Topical pain relief. Creams and gels with diclofenac or capsaicin deliver relief directly to the joint without affecting blood pressure. Lifestyle adjustments. Gentle exercise, yoga, and physical therapy can reduce stiffness naturally. Anti-inflammatory foods. Turmeric, ginger tea, and omega-3 rich foods like salmon or flax seeds act as natural inflammation fighters. Why this matters. For seniors like Mary, the quick relief from NSAIDs can feel like a lifeline. But what seems harmless today could set the stage for tomorrow's emergency room visit. The key is not to panic, but to be aware and to talk with your doctor about safer, heart-friendly options. Think of NSAIDs as a double-edged sword. They dull the pain, but sharpen the hidden risk of stroke. Choosing wisely could mean the difference between another normal morning and one that changes your life forever. Now, we just talked about NSAIDs, the everyday pain relievers that so many seniors use without thinking twice. But pain isn't the only battle that comes with age. For many, the quieter struggle is emotional. Loneliness, anxiety, or even depression can creep in, especially after retirement or the loss of a loved one. And that's where our second group of medications comes in: antidepressants, particularly SSRIs. Take Linda, a 70-year-old widow from Florida. After her husband passed, her doctor prescribed Zoloft, sertraline, to help her cope with the grief and anxiety that kept her awake at night. Within weeks, she felt a little lighter, a little more able to get through the day. For Linda, that small pill felt like hope in a bottle. But here's what most seniors like Linda are never told. SSRIs, drugs like Prozac, Zoloft, and Celexa, may quietly raise the risk of stroke, especially in older adults. Why SSRIs increase stroke risk. SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, are designed to balance mood by boosting serotonin in the brain. But serotonin doesn't just affect mood, it also affects how platelets in your blood stick together. By altering this balance, SSRIs can increase the risk of bleeding in the brain, hemorrhagic stroke. And here's the catch. Many seniors already take aspirin or blood thinners to protect their heart. When SSRIs are combined with those drugs, the bleeding risk doubles or even triples. Scientific evidence. A major study published in the British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology found that seniors on SSRIs had up to a 50% higher risk of intracranial hemorrhage. Research in neurology confirmed that when SSRIs were taken along with aspirin or warfarin, the risk of bleeding strokes increased significantly. What makes it alarming is that SSRIs are one of the most prescribed medications in America for people over 60. Other concerns for seniors. SSRIs may cause dizziness or balance problems, leading to falls, a major risk factor for seniors. They can also lower sodium levels in the blood, a condition called hyponatremia, which can mimic stroke symptoms like confusion, weakness, and headache. Practical alternatives. Depression and anxiety are real and serious. The answer is not to stop treatment, but to look for safer, balanced options. Newer antidepressants like SNRIs, e.g., duloxetine, may have different side effect profiles, though still need careful monitoring. Lifestyle interventions, gentle daily exercise, joining social groups, or even volunteering can significantly improve mood and reduce isolation. Therapies and counseling. Talking treatments, when combined with lower dose medication, may reduce the need for high SSRI exposure. Why this matters for Linda: that little pill helped her heart in one way, but may have put her brain at risk in another. And that's the hidden truth many seniors are never told. SSRIs can be life-saving, but they also carry invisible dangers that must be weighed carefully, especially if you're already on blood thinners. So here's the takeaway. If you're taking antidepressants, don't panic, but do have an open conversation with your doctor. Ask, is this the safest option for me? Are there alternatives that protect both my mood and my brain? Because the goal isn't just to live longer, it's to live healthier, clearer, and free from the shadow of stroke. We've just looked at antidepressants, the so-called mood pills, that can quietly raise the risk of stroke. But what if your struggle isn't mood, it's sleep? For many seniors, the night can be the hardest part of the day. Tossing, turning, staring at the ceiling, waiting for sleep that never seems to come. That's exactly what happened to George, a 74-year-old retired teacher from Michigan. After months of restless nights, his doctor gave him a prescription, Xanax, alprazolam, to calm his anxiety, and Valium, diazepam, to help him finally drift off. And at first, it felt like a miracle. George finally slept through the night. But beneath that calm rest was a hidden danger. Benzodiazepines, medications like Xanax, Valium, and Ativan, can double the risk of stroke in older adults. Why benzodiazepines increase stroke risk? These drugs work by slowing down brain activity and relaxing the nervous system. While that sounds perfect for sleep or anxiety, it also causes blood pressure to drop suddenly and circulation to slow down. For seniors with already fragile arteries, this creates a dangerous situation. Less oxygen reaching the brain, higher risk of clot formation, and an increased chance of stroke. And the risk doesn't stop there. Benzodiazepines cause drowsiness, dizziness, and impaired balance. For someone in their 70s, that can mean falls, head injuries, and hospital visits, all of which compound stroke risk even further. Scientific evidence. A study in the British Medical Journal found that seniors who regularly used benzodiazepines had a 50% higher risk of ischemic stroke. Research in Stroke Journal reported that even short-term use of benzodiazepines could increase the likelihood of blood vessel constriction and clot formation in the brain. Alarmingly, more than 1 in 10 seniors in the U.S. use benzodiazepines, often prescribed for years, despite guidelines recommending only short-term use. Other concerns for seniors' memory loss and confusion. Benzodiazepines have been linked to cognitive decline and even higher dementia risk. Dependence. These drugs can be habit-forming, making it hard for seniors to stop once they've started. Interactions. When combined with alcohol or other sedatives, the risks multiply. Practical alternatives. The truth is, insomnia and anxiety are real, but there are safer ways to manage them. Non-drug approaches, relaxation routines, meditation, or gentle evening exercise can improve sleep naturally. Safer medications. Melatonin supplements or certain antidepressants with sedative properties may be lower risk under medical supervision. Sleep hygiene. Simple habits like reducing caffeine after noon, keeping a consistent bedtime, and dimming lights before bed can have a surprisingly big impact. Why this matters for George: the pill gave him rest, but it also quietly increased his vulnerability. And he's not alone. Millions of seniors may be taking these medications, believing they're harmless, while unknowingly doubling their stroke risk. So if you rely on Xanax, Valium, or Ativan, here's my message. Don't stop suddenly, but don't stay silent either. Talk with your doctor about safer options and gradual adjustments, because good sleep should heal your body, not put your brain at greater risk. We just talked about benzodiazepines, the sleep aids that can quietly raise your stroke risk. But what if you've never taken Xanax or Valium? What if, instead, you walk into your local pharmacy, head to the over-the-counter aisle, and grab something you've trusted for years, Benadryl for allergies, or maybe even as a nighttime sleep aid? That's exactly what happened with Carol, a 69-year-old retired nurse from Arizona. She didn't like the idea of prescription sleep medications, so instead she reached for diphenhydramine, Benadryl, thinking, "It's safe. I've been using this since I was young." Every night before bed, she took one tablet, expecting nothing more than a good night's sleep. But here's the hidden danger. Old generation antihistamines like Benadryl don't just make you sleepy. They can thicken your blood, raise your heart rate, and quietly increase your risk of stroke. Why old antihistamines increase stroke risk? These medications work by blocking histamine, which calms allergic reactions and causes drowsiness. But they also have strong anticholinergic effects, meaning they dry out the body, reduce fluid balance, and can make the blood more concentrated. For seniors, this dehydration effect is dangerous because thickened blood flows less easily and is more likely to clot. They can also raise blood pressure and cause irregular heartbeats. Combine that with already aging blood vessels, and you have a recipe for higher stroke risk, especially at night when hydration levels are already low. Scientific evidence. A study published in JAMA Internal Medicine found that long-term use of strong anticholinergic drugs, including old antihistamines, was associated with a 54% higher risk of stroke and dementia in older adults. Another report showed that diphenhydramine use in seniors was linked to higher nighttime blood pressure spikes, a key trigger for strokes during sleep. Despite this, Benadryl remains one of the most commonly purchased OTC medications by seniors in the U.S. Other concerns for seniors: confusion and memory problems. The anticholinergic effect can mimic early dementia symptoms. Drowsiness and falls. Increased fall risk leads to hospitalizations and further cardiovascular stress. Urinary retention, especially in men with enlarged prostates, adding further nighttime strain. Practical alternatives for allergies. Second-generation antihistamines like loratadine, Claritin, or cetirizine, Zyrtec, are safer and non-sedating. For sleep issues, natural aids like melatonin or simple sleep hygiene changes may help without vascular side effects. Always discuss with a doctor before making a switch, especially if you've been taking antihistamines long-term. Why this matters. Carol thought she was avoiding the risks of prescription sleep medications, but in reality, her harmless Benadryl habit was quietly putting her brain at risk every night. And millions of seniors across America are doing the same, unaware of the hidden dangers. So here's the truth. Just because something is available over the counter does not mean it's safe for long-term use, especially after 60. What feels like a small, innocent pill can have consequences as serious as a stroke. We've just talked about antihistamines, the harmless, over-the-counter pills that can dry out your body and quietly raise your stroke risk. But let's turn now to something even more common for seniors in America: diabetes medications. Meet Robert, a 73-year-old grandfather from Illinois. He was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes more than a decade ago. At every doctor's visit, his blood sugar levels were carefully monitored. His doctor prescribed glyburide, a sulfonylurea, to keep his glucose under control. And it worked. Robert's numbers improved, and he felt like he had his diabetes under control. But what Robert didn't realize was that while his blood sugar was being managed, another danger was quietly growing in the background. Sulfonylureas, medications like glyburide, glipizide, and glympyride, can increase the risk of nighttime hypoglycemia, dangerously low blood sugar, which in turn raises the risk of stroke. Why sulfonylureas increase stroke risk. These drugs work by stimulating the pancreas to release more insulin. That helps bring blood sugar down, but sometimes it drives it down too far, especially overnight. When blood sugar plummets while you sleep, your brain and heart are starved of fuel. The body reacts by releasing stress hormones like adrenaline, which spike blood pressure and heart rate. For seniors with already fragile arteries, these sharp nighttime fluctuations create the perfect storm. Higher clot risk, irregular heartbeats, and reduced blood flow to the brain. Over time, this can double the risk of a stroke. Scientific evidence. A study in diabetes care found that older adults taking sulfonylureas had a twofold higher risk of severe hypoglycemia-related hospitalizations, many of which led to strokes or cardiac events. Another trial reported that glyburide users had significantly higher cardiovascular mortality compared to those on newer diabetes medications. The American Diabetes Association now advises caution with sulfonylureas in seniors due to their link with both stroke and sudden cardiac events. Other concerns for seniors. Weight gain, which worsens insulin resistance and heart strain. Falls from hypoglycemia episodes. Low blood sugar can cause dizziness, confusion, or fainting. Drug interactions. Sulfonylureas can dangerously interact with other common medications. Practical alternatives. Newer diabetes medications like DPP-4 inhibitors, e.g., sitagliptin, or GLP-1 agonists, e.g., semaglutide, have safer profiles for seniors. Lifestyle approaches. Balanced evening meals with protein and fiber help stabilize blood sugar overnight. Close monitoring. If sulfonylureas must be used, seniors should monitor bedtime blood sugar and avoid skipping late snacks. Why this matters. For Robert, every pill of glyburide kept his blood sugar in check, but also raised his risk of a nighttime crisis. And millions of older Americans are in the same position, trusting their medication while unaware of the hidden danger it carries. Here's the truth. Managing diabetes should never come at the cost of increasing your stroke risk. Safer options exist, and every senior deserves to know about them. We just talked about sulfonylureas, the diabetes drugs that can drive blood sugar dangerously low at night. Now let's shift to another pill that sits in millions of medicine cabinets across America. Thyroid hormone replacement. Meet Susan, a 71-year-old retired librarian from New York. Like many women her age, she was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, an underactive thyroid, years ago. Her doctor prescribed levothyroxine, a synthetic thyroid hormone, to keep her energy steady and metabolism balanced. It worked. She felt more alert, less sluggish, and able to enjoy her daily walks again. But here's the hidden danger. When the dose of thyroid hormone is too high, it can push the body into a state of overdrive. And for seniors, that overdrive can be devastating. Why thyroid hormone? Can increase stroke risk. Levothyroxine is meant to restore thyroid levels to normal. But if the dose tips even slightly too high, which happens more often in seniors, it can cause atrial fibrillation, AFib, and irregular heart rhythm. AFib is one of the strongest risk factors for stroke, raising the likelihood fivefold. Excess thyroid hormone also increases blood pressure, heart rate, and blood clot risk. For seniors with aging blood vessels, this combination creates a perfect setup for stroke, especially during sleep when the body's circulation slows down. Scientific evidence. A large Canadian study in Circulation found that seniors taking high-dose levothyroxine had a 29% higher risk of AFib, which directly leads to more strokes. How research from the American Journal of Medicine showed that overtreatment with thyroid hormone in seniors increased the risk of ischemic stroke by up to 40%. Levothyroxine consistently ranks among the top 5 most prescribed medications in the United States, meaning millions may be exposed to this overlooked risk. Other concerns for seniors. Bone loss, osteoporosis. Too much thyroid hormone weakens bones, increasing fracture risk. Palpitations and anxiety, symptoms that are often dismissed as just aging. Sleep disruption. Overactive metabolism makes it harder to rest, raising cardiovascular stress. Practical alternatives and safety tips. Regular blood tests. Seniors should check thyroid-stimulating hormone, TSH, every 6 to 12 months to avoid overtreatment. Dose adjustments. Sometimes a slightly lower dose can control symptoms without increasing stroke risk. Lifestyle support. A diet rich in selenium, Brazil nuts, sunflower seeds, and iodine, seaweed iodized salt, supports thyroid function naturally. Why this matters. For Susan, the little pill that gave her energy also carried an invisible threat. She thought she was protecting her health, but the wrong dose was quietly increasing her chance of a stroke. And she's not alone. Millions of seniors are prescribed levothyroxine, yet very few are warned about the cardiovascular risks of overtreatment. So here's the truth. Thyroid medication can be life-saving when used correctly, but harmful if overlooked. If you're on levothyroxine, don't stop. But do ask your doctor, is my dose still right for my age? Am I being monitored closely enough? Because sometimes protecting your brain is as simple as making sure your prescription fits your body today, not 10 years ago. We just looked at thyroid hormone replacement, the little pill that can bring energy back, but also raise the risk of stroke if the dose is too high. Now let's talk about another kind of hormone treatment, one that millions of American women have faced after menopause, hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. Take Margaret, a 66-year-old grandmother from California. When she reached menopause, she experienced hot flashes that drenched her sheets at night, mood swings that left her exhausted, and bone aches that seemed to grow worse by the day. Her doctor prescribed estrogen combined with progestin, promising relief. And for Margaret, it worked. Within weeks, she slept better, felt more like herself, and regained her energy. But what she didn't know, and what many women were never told, is that HRT can quietly increase the risk of stroke. Why HRT increases stroke risk estrogen is powerful. It influences blood vessels, blood clotting, and inflammation. In younger women, it often protects the heart. But after menopause, when estrogen is introduced as a medication, the story changes. Extra estrogen can make the blood more likely to clot, raise blood pressure, and increase the chances of a blockage in the brain. And when progestin is added, as it often is for women with a uterus, the risk grows even higher. Scientific evidence. The landmark Women's Health Initiative, WHI study, which followed over 16,000 postmenopausal women, found that those on combined estrogen-progestin therapy had a doubled risk of ischemic stroke compared to those on placebo. Another analysis in JAMA showed that even short-term use of HRT increased stroke risk within the first few years of treatment. Today, the FDA requires all HRT products to carry a warning about stroke and blood clot risks. Other concerns for seniors. Breast cancer risk, especially with long-term combined HRT. Blood clots in the legs, DVT, which can travel to the lungs or brain. Memory problems. Some studies suggest higher dementia risk with prolonged use. Practical alternatives. Relief from menopause symptoms is important, but there are safer approaches. Lifestyle adjustments. Cooling the bedroom, wearing light layers, and limiting caffeine can ease hot flashes. Non-hormonal medications. Certain antidepressants, low-dose SSRIs, SNRIs, and gabapentin can reduce hot flashes without raising stroke risk. Bone health support. Weight-bearing exercise, calcium, and vitamin D can protect against osteoporosis. Why this matters. For Margaret, HRT felt like getting her life back. But what she didn't realize was that the same pills soothing her symptoms were also quietly increasing her risk of a devastating stroke. And she's not alone. millions of women across the U.S. have faced the same trade-off, often without being fully informed. So here's the takeaway. If you're considering or already using hormone therapy, ask your doctor the tough questions. Is this the lowest dose I can take? Is there a non-hormonal option for me? How often should my risks be reassessed? Relief is important, but not at the cost of your independence or your life. We just talked about hormone therapy, the treatment that brings relief but may also double stroke risk in older women. Now let's move to a medication that many seniors take every single day, often for years: warfarin. Meet James, a 75-year-old veteran from Ohio. He was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation, a common heart rhythm problem in seniors, and his doctor prescribed warfarin to prevent blood clots. Every morning, James carefully swallowed his little pill, believing it was his shield against stroke. And in many ways, it was. Warfarin has saved countless lives by reducing clot formation. But here's the catch. Warfarin only protects you if the dose is just right. If the blood becomes too thin, the risk of bleeding in the brain skyrockets. If the blood isn't thin enough, clots still form and block the arteries. For seniors, especially those juggling multiple medications, hitting that perfect balance is harder than it seems. Why warfarin can increase stroke risk. Warfarin works by blocking vitamin K, which the body needs to form clots. But the therapeutic window is narrow. Doctors measure this through a test called INR, International Normalized Ratio. The goal is usually between 2.0 and 3.0. If INR less than 2, blood is too thick, clot and stroke risk rises. If INR greater than 3, blood is too thin, bleeding risk rises, including hemorrhagic stroke. And here's the problem: diet, especially leafy greens. Other medications, like antibiotics or painkillers, and even alcohol can all change how warfarin works in the body. This makes it incredibly difficult for seniors to stay in the safe zone all the time. Scientific evidence. A study in stroke found that seniors on warfarin who spent less than 60% of the time in the target INR range had a 3 times higher risk of stroke or brain bleed. The American Heart Association reports that warfarin-related intracranial hemorrhage accounts for up to 15% of all strokes in older adults. Despite newer alternatives, warfarin is still prescribed to millions of seniors in the U.S. Other concerns for seniors: frequent blood tests, INR monitoring are required, often burdensome. Interactions with common foods, spinach, kale, broccoli, make diet complicated. Dangerous interactions with antibiotics, antifungals, and NSAIDs. Practical alternatives. Newer anticoagulants, DOACs. Medications like apixaban, Eliquis, or rivaroxaban, Xarelto, are now preferred for many seniors because they don't require constant monitoring and have lower brain bleed risks. Lifestyle support. Staying hydrated, keeping blood pressure stable, and limiting alcohol can help reduce clot and bleed risk. Close medical supervision. Never adjust or stop warfarin without guidance. It can trigger immediate clotting risks. Why this matters for James: warfarin gave peace of mind. But the reality is this life-saving pill can turn deadly when the balance shifts even slightly. And for millions of older adults, that balance is harder to maintain than most realize. So here's the takeaway. If you or a loved one is on warfarin, don't fear it, but respect it. Monitor closely. Ask your doctor about safer alternatives, and never assume that one pill can protect you forever without careful oversight. Because when it comes to warfarin, the line between protection and danger is razor thin. We just finished talking about warfarin, the blood thinner that can save lives but also tip into danger if the balance isn't right. Now let's look at another group of medications used for a similar purpose: protecting the heart. Specifically, old antiarrhythmic drugs like amiodarone and digoxin. Meet Frank, a 78-year-old retired truck driver from Pennsylvania. He was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation, the same irregular heartbeat that puts millions of older Americans at risk for stroke. His doctor prescribed digoxin, a decades-old drug that helps the heart beat more steadily. For a while, Frank felt better. His heartbeat was less chaotic, and he had the energy to mow his lawn again. But months later, Frank began feeling dizzy. His vision blurred. His heart sometimes pounded too fast, and other times seemed to skip beats. One morning, after nearly fainting in his kitchen, his daughter rushed him to the ER. The culprit wasn't just his heart condition. It was the very drug meant to control it. Why old antiarrhythmics can increase stroke risk drugs like digoxin and amiodarone work by controlling the electrical signals in the heart. But the problem is that these drugs have a very narrow safety margin. Too little, and the heart stays irregular, raising stroke risk. Too much, and they can cause dangerous side effects: slow heart rate, sudden blood pressure drops, or new arrhythmias that make clot formation even more likely. In seniors whose kidneys and livers don't process drugs as efficiently, levels of these medications can build up quickly and unpredictably. That makes them especially risky. Scientific evidence. A large study in the European Heart Journal found that digoxin users with atrial fibrillation had a 27% higher risk of death and stroke compared to those on newer treatments. Research in JAMA Internal Medicine reported that long-term amiodarone use was linked with higher rates of stroke, thyroid dysfunction, and lung damage. Despite these risks, both drugs are still widely prescribed to seniors simply because they've been around for decades and are familiar to many doctors. Other concerns for seniors: vision problems and dizziness, leading to falls and injuries; drug interactions. Digoxin especially interacts with diuretics, blood pressure drugs, and antibiotics. Thyroid and lung issues, amiodarone, can further weaken seniors already vulnerable to chronic illness. Practical alternatives. Newer rhythm control drugs or rate control medications, like beta blockers or calcium channel blockers, are often safer for seniors. Catheter ablation. A non-drug procedure to reset the heart rhythm may be an option in some cases. Close monitoring. If old antiarrhythmics must be used, frequent heart monitoring and dose adjustments are essential. Why this matters for Frank: the pill he trusted to keep his heart steady ended up destabilizing his health in a different way. And millions of older Americans face the same hidden risk, often without ever being warned. Here's the truth. When it comes to protecting your brain and heart, not all medications are created equal. Some of the oldest ones, though familiar, can actually backfire and put you at greater danger of the very stroke they were meant to prevent. So if you or a loved one are taking digoxin, amiodarone, or any old antiarrhythmic, don't stay silent. Ask your doctor, is this still the safest option for me today? Or is there a newer, better way to protect my heart and my brain? Because sometimes, protecting your life means questioning even the pills you've been taking for decades. We've walked through 9 different medications, pills that millions of older adults in America take every single day. From pain relievers and sleep aids, to antidepressants, diabetes pills, thyroid hormones, and even drugs designed to protect the heart itself. Each of them has a purpose. Each was meant to help. And yet, as we've seen, each one also carries a hidden danger: the power to silently double your risk of stroke. Here's the most important truth. It's not aging alone that drives your risk higher. It's what goes into your body every day. And the problem is not that these medications exist, but that too often no one takes the time to explain the risks to seniors who trust them. Maybe you recognized yourself in some of the stories we shared, taking ibuprofen for your aching knees, Zoloft for low mood, or a little Benadryl at night just to sleep. Maybe you're on thyroid medication, or warfarin, or even digoxin. If so, you are not alone. Tens of millions of older adults are just like you. But here's the good news. Knowledge is power. Awareness gives you the chance to have an honest conversation with your doctor, to ask if there are safer alternatives, lower doses, or newer options that protect your brain instead of putting it at risk. Stroke prevention doesn't always mean more pills. Sometimes it simply means the right pills, at the right dose, with the right monitoring. Don't wait until a stroke changes your life forever. The time to act is now, while you're alert, independent, and able to make choices for yourself. Because every small step, checking your medications, asking better questions, making healthier adjustments, builds a shield for your future. And I want to hear from you. If you or someone you love takes daily medication, type 1 in the comments. If you're looking for safer alternatives, type Z. Let's make this a community where seniors support each other in staying informed and empowered. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone you care about. The more awareness we spread, the more lives we can protect. Remember, your health is not just in your doctor's hands. It's in your hands too. So take action today, because caring for your health now is the best way to protect your independence, your memory, and your tomorrow.